Good people, SteelSeries and Turtle Beach are proud of this badge, the high-res audio wireless 24-bit 96 kHz on a gaming headset. You can trace it from Windows down to the USB port into the transmitter. It's all completely real, so genuinely higher wireless bandwidth. But here's the scam. None of my games in my library can actually use it. It seems like the best feature for the next gen of wireless gaming headsets has actually nothing to do with gaming, and nobody is telling you what it's actually going to be good for. Now the problem is that gaming headsets have always had bad reputation, right? With the surround sound BS, hear your enemies before they hear you, footsteps and sensor, all that marketing BS. But now with high-res audio wireless, it is actually truly a step forward in terms of giving us a much cleaner, much higher signal bandwidth, therefore getting close to that wired performance, but it has nothing to do with gaming, unfortunately. And that is because game engines, both for PC and console, are capped at 48 kHz. And in my sound testing of audio files from games, they never reached that threshold. So now we have high-res audio wireless coming in with a massive 96 kHz. I mean, are you kidding me? The cool thing is that game developers try to optimize audio both for performance and storage. So if a sound file can be saved in a slightly lower container to save on memory, that is used. For example, I took samples from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So every file that ships in a 48 kHz container, but the sound inside of it only uses equivalent of like 36. And the rest is just empty space. In Helldivers 2, it's the same story. Machine gun fire, which is like the loudest and the brightest thing in the game, only fills 36 kHz of sample rate inside our 48 kHz box. And in my search across different games, different audio file types inside the game, I have not found a single file that reaches anywhere close to 48 kHz, let alone 96 kHz potential with high-res audio wireless. So if you follow the math, we have an issue here because the game ships with 36, the game engine is capable of 48, high-res audio wireless now gives us 96, so 2/3 of that audio pipeline in the gaming space is just silence. Now that high-res badge comes from the Japanese Audio Society, which is an industry body that certifies devices that can hit at least 24-bit 96 kHz sample rate for your audio device and goes out to at least 40 kHz on the frequency response. So it's a badge that you have to pay for, but it still gives you that badge of honor, I would say. But interestingly, some websites that sell high-res music and FLAC files and stuff, they would still classify music as high-res, even if it's not going out to 96 kHz. They would just give it a high-res if it's at least 24-bit. So there's a bit of a misconnect between the high-res badge for your hardware versus high-res badge for your music. So does it all mean that high-res wireless is completely pointless? No. There is content that fills in that pipeline, it's just not in gaming, it's in music. Real 24-bit 96 kHz studio masters, your FLAC files, high-res streaming tiers. I ran a few high-res files through spec and you can clearly see that it fills in way more of that spectrogram versus what the game files deliver, for example. So yes, there is content that can actually be delivered to 24-bit 96 kHz. And that's exactly what the badge was built for. And running your games at higher sample rates won't break the game, but it just won't give you any competitive advantage either. And what's really interesting is taking a look at these two headsets that have very similar feature sets and specs, and yet their implementation of high-res and how they sound is vastly different. Now, interestingly, Turtle Beach is always piping the full 24-bit 96 kHz pipeline through the USB port. You can clearly see that it's 0 times 240, which is that constant speed. Regardless if you switch it to the 24-bit 48 kHz, that pipeline is still reserved for that full speed. So the sample rate switching happens within the software and the headset with Turtle Beach, while with SteelSeries, that pipeline is a little bit more transparent. So if you're running at 24-bit 96 kHz, sure, you get that full speed, but if you're lowering it to, you can clearly see that from the USB side that pipeline is cut in half. And neither approach is wrong. It's just that engineering is slightly different here while still delivering that high-res badge. But they do share the same frequency response. They have the hot swappable battery systems, which are brilliant, with active noise cancellation and transparency or like ambient modes built in, simultaneous Bluetooth and 2.4 GHz dongle playback, and of course deep companion apps for PC and your phone. And yet, out of the box, these are tuned for completely different priorities. So the Nova Pro Omni is the analyst. It's very bright, it's very forward, excellent for competitive games where the tiny, little sharp audio cues are quite important, CS2 for example, but at the same time that high-end lift can be quite fatiguing over long movie sessions or music sessions too, until you EQ it. While the Stealth Pro 2 is the entertainer, it's got warmer and fuller, genuine bass weight and smoother, more control highs. Out of the box, this is definitely more enjoyable and an all-arounder for music and like immersive single-player games, no problem. And surprisingly, they both EQ nicely here, because in order to hit that yellow fancy badge, they had to not cheap out on their drivers and also make sure that the frequency response of those drivers reaches the 40 kilohertz range, where like most standard basic gaming headsets only reach 20. And yes, you can argue that the human hearing cannot hear anything below 16 kilohertz anyway, and like really good young ears 20 kilohertz, but the fact that the drivers are capable of delivering something much higher doesn't mean it's not used in making sure there's no distortion and that you can still tweak certain frequency ranges without totally destroying the whole range. And remember that EQ doesn't really care about the high-res badge or the sample rate of the headset. When you adjust those sliders, it really comes down to driver quality, the firmware inside what the EQ is doing. The internal amps in both of these headsets are actually quite important as well. And none of these things affect the sample rate of your audio file. What actually protects the quality of your sources is whether or not it is actually compressed or not compressed. So a 48 kilohertz lossless file should sound better than a compressed 96 kilohertz file. Unfortunately, the whole high-res pipeline is a one-way street. It's only to the headset, nothing coming out of the headset. So like the microphone, sure, it's 16-bit, 48 kilohertz, but in terms of the microphone capsule, it doesn't touch anything that is high-res related. So it's really comes down to processing, the company's decision on which capsule to use for the microphone, and this is what that sounds like with the Turtle Beach Stealth Pro 2. As for SteelSeries, they've never really had a good sounding microphone on their gaming headset. It's good that it's retractable, it shows me the mute notification when it's muted, but otherwise, it is what it is in terms of the clarity. You could go with the less nasally preset. With it enabled, it definitely complements my voice, but unfortunately, no relationship to the high-res badge versus your microphone quality. Now, comfort on both of these pairs is universally solid. You get plenty of headband extension on both swivel completely flat, both play nice with glasses, and despite the Stealth Pro 2 being a little bit heavier, it balances that weight effortlessly and just feels way more premium than an almost all plastic build on the Nova Pro Omni. Although all the plastic does contribute to a much lighter footprint, and over time, that might matter. Now, a couple of things to mention before I wrap things up. Living with the Stealth Pro 2 has been almost hassle-free, but if you are updating the firmware on this thing, holy good luck. It is painfully slow. I've had to do this twice in a month, and it updates both the headset and your base station. It just takes forever. SteelSeries obviously has to update firmware as well, but it is way faster. And then I had this deafening bug that genuinely scared me. When I turned the headset on and started playing something at 5% volume, this thing was running at 100% volume, so it almost made me deaf. Reducing the volume aside from mute didn't do anything, and that's because the volume wheel on the headset, it's not like a hard stop and hard go. It's just these little steps that sends the signal of like add volume or reduce volume, and it seems like there was some bug between the firmware on the base station or the headset or Windows volume that only resolved itself when I replugged the headset back in. Luckily, no other major software bugs or issues here, or with the SteelSeries. The covers are a little bit loose on the SteelSeries for sure. But one of my favorite things about the Omni is having independent power buttons for your headset with the dongle versus Bluetooth. So you can power on Bluetooth without needing to connect this to the base station. It's amazing, versus with the Stealth Pro 2, it's just a power button and it automatically connects to your Bluetooth, which is so annoying when I don't want to be connecting to my phone every time I just want to play a game. And so here's my verdict. High-res wireless audio on the gaming headset is verified, it's real, it's there. It's completely irrelevant for gaming. The sound effects inside the games can't feed it, the engines won't render it, the game engines, and the consoles cap it. What you're actually buying here is a legitimately good wireless pair of headphones with the gaming costume on top, and that to some people might be worth it. If you have a giant FLAC library, if you have a high-tier streaming library, and maybe if you have the ears for it too. But if you're buying this to hear footsteps in Call of Duty better, empty promise, my friend. You know, you're paying for a pipe that the games will never fill, and it's not a scam because the tech is fake, it's real. It's a scam because of who they're selling it to. And on that note, spend responsibly, my friends, and let's have a conversation down below. Should be fun.